Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant government examination. We will take up some of the important articles that are in news and are important from GS paper 1, GS paper 2, GS 3 perspective. Let us try and understand some of the important articles for today's newspaper analysis. The first article is with respect to the KAS system. This is very important from your GS paper 1 perspective, which is your social issues. The social issues topic is very important from your GS paper 1, and this system of caste hierarchy that exists in India is also a major problem for the country. And what are the issues that exist, what are the measures that have to be taken, what are the constitutional principles that are present is what we will try and understand in this article. The article here says the failure of hope. What is this failure of hope? Recently we have witnessed couple of caste biasness, caste violence that have taken place in couple of states in India. One such example has been taken in this particular case. So what we will try and understand is a larger picture of caste bias that happens in India. Why does it happen and way forward when it comes to this particular issue. First, we have to understand the meaning of caste. What is caste? Caste is based on a social hierarchy. What is the social hierarchy? We in India have something called as the caste system that has been present from a very long period of time. According to this caste system, what does it do? It ensures that there is a particular Varna system that is in place. What is this Varna system? Varna system is basically a certain group of people who are categorized according to a particular social hierarchy. So you have a pyramidal structure that takes place into picture where you have a particular group and then you have a social hierarchy. In India, the concept of caste system can be folded into 4 different compartments. Which are these compartments? One is what is called as the Brahmin community, the Kshatriya community, then you have the Vaishya community, and then you also have the Shudra community. So what is this caste? This is basically an ancient system of social hierarchy based on one's birth. So is it something that I am given by some organization or by an institution or by an authority? No, it is given by the place, it is given by which group you are born under. Let's say for example, you are brought up under a particular group and that particular social hierarchy and that particular caste will stay with that person for the entire lifetime. So it is not that it is acquired by some intellectual capacity or by your hard work or by someone trying to infuse certain amount of energy into the system. No, but it is because of the social hierarchy. So the minute I am born in a particular caste, an individual is born in a particular caste, he happens to remain in that particular caste for the entire lifetime. So what is a caste? It is nothing but a social hierarchy where it is attained at the time of birth, and this particular concept basically enunciate the concept of purity as well as social status in the society. So it is nothing but a social hierarchical constraint that is present in the country. The word caste has its origins in the Latin, which stands for castus, which means caste or pure. Caste made its way into the Indian lexicon with the arrival of the Portuguese in the 1700s, who first used the word casta with reference to the social hierarchy in the Indian subcontinent. So this is not attained by knowledge, this is not attained by a person through his hard work. The minute a person is born in a specific group, he will remain in that particular social hierarchy for the entire lifetime. That is what is called as caste. In India, we have more than 3000 jatis in India. Each region in India has its own ranking of jatis. When we consider the northern part of India, what we see is a clear-cut separation, which means you have the Brahmin community, then you also have the Kshatriya community, you also have the Vaishya community, and you also have the Shudra community as well. But when it comes to the southern part of India, in southern part of India, we have the Brahmin community. The Kshatriyas and Vaishyas in few pockets are merged together. In northern India, you have clear-cut differentiation that exists, but in the southern part, the Kshatriya and the Vaishya community that exists, they basically come into one single group, and that single group gets merged in couple of regions in India. So basically, in northern part, you have clear-cut separation, but in southern part we do not have this clear cut separation in some pockets of southern part of India. So basically this caste system that we have is nothing but jatis in India, and each region in India has its own ranking of jatis, which is what is called as the caste system in India. Now the next question is this caste system a British construct? When it comes to the British, before the British came into the picture, the caste system in India was more fluid in nature. But the British came into India, and the minute the British wanted to also break India and also wanted to ensure that their own policies are in picture. So what do? They make it more rigid as well. When it comes to the original idea, it was more fluid in nature, so they were able to move about. But when it comes to the British, they came up with a schedule, they started associating people with a particular caste, it became far more rigid as well. So when it comes to the caste, it is an Indian construct, but it became far more rigid when it comes to the British administration, as they started segregating the caste and putting them into a particular schedule, so on and so forth. Let me also explain another concept called as Sanskritization. What is this concept of Sanskritization? As we discussed, there are Varna system that exists. According to this Varna system, you have about 4 castes that are placed, and this is the social hierarchical system. But what happens in Sanskritization? With more economic power, what people would want to do is they tend to change their habits over a period of time. So they know for the fact that a particular Varna system will also have certain privileges as well. They also know for the fact that a particular Varna system will also have its own share of economic advantages as well. So a person from a particular Varna, it can be a Kshatriya or it can be a Vaishya or it can be a Shudra, whosoever it is, if that particular person from that particular jati goes on to become economically prosperous, and over a period of time he also continues to have the food habits, he also follows certain practices with respect to certain customs, and over a period of time, apart from the economic prosperity, if he is able to mold his culture as per the practices of a certain community or a certain Varna, that is what is called as Sanskritization. So Sanskritization basically means a person from the lower Varna, because he has claimed economic prosperity, he is now able to meet up to the customs and the practices of the so-called upper caste, and ultimately this person who is lower in the hierarchy is able to keep up to all the customs and the practices of the upper community. That is what is called as Sanskritization. So basically it is the mobility in the caste system which is called as Sanskritization. So Sanskritization basically is the mobility in the caste system which has transformed into what is called as Sanskritization. Why have we discussing about the caste system? That is because what we are witnessing in couple of states in India right now is caste based crimes in India. This is happening in southern states, this is happening in the western part, eastern part, northern part, so on and so forth. So what we currently have is increasing cases of caste based crimes in India. Let's look at the data. If we look into the statistics, atrocities or crime against the scheduled caste have increased by 1.2% in 2021 over 2020. Uttar Pradesh reported the highest number of cases of atrocities against the scheduled caste, accounting for 25.82%, followed by Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. The next 2 states in the list are Bihar as well as Odisha. The above top 5 states reported 70.8% of the cases of atrocities against the scheduled caste. What are the violence against the Adivasis? The Adivasis are the scheduled tribe community. This have increased by 6.4% in 2021 over 2020. Madhya Pradesh reported the highest number of cases of atrocities against the scheduled tribes, followed by Rajasthan and Odisha. Maharashtra was next in the list, followed by Telangana. And finally, when it comes to the pending cases against the SCs and the ST community, a total of 70,818 cases of atrocities against scheduled castes were pending for investigation at the end of the year 2021. Similarly, 12,159 cases of atrocities against scheduled tribe were pending for investigation. A total of 52,159 cases of atrocities against SCs and 8,825 cases of atrocities against SCs were disposed of by police. This clearly demarcates that what we have is caste-based violence in our country, and this continues. the humanity is being washed away in certain pockets in few incidents, and this unfortunately could have far more repercussions is what is this article all about. Now the question is, what are the reasons for these caste-based violence that have been perpetuated, or what are the causes of this caste-based violence? What we have to look at is couple of issues. One is the hierarchical structure. What is this hierarchical structure? This is a custom that is being practiced from a very long period of time. So you have the establishment of a pyramidal structure where you have a certain varnas that are defined, and as per the varnas that have been existing from the historical picture, that is why we have the caste system. So what is the major cause? Because this has been practiced from number of years, thousands of years, the hierarchical structure has already been established, which is why there have been these existing cases of caste biasness is the first major point. The second major point is in terms of the cultural practices. What are these cultural practices? Because it has been prescribed in few customs, which is why a certain section of the people find superiority. Superiority of what? They find that they belong to a particular caste. Because they belong to a particular caste, they want to oppress the other person who is from a lower caste. The so-called upper caste will start suppressing the viewpoints of the so-called lower caste. They would not be able to have any of these practices which the so-called upper caste are practicing. So this cultural practices which has been in practice for a very long period of time, this has been passed on from one generation to another. This has been infused into the thought process of even minors as well. Such is the case that this has been practiced in the households, and since it is practiced in the households, the same has been transferred from one generation to another. This superiority complex continues to haunt the Indian society. So on one side there is a practice that has been historically been practiced, and at the same time, since this is practiced, it is also being passed on to the future generation in the form of the cultural practices. In order to overrule all these issues, what we have is the laws. These laws that we currently have in the form of constitution, in the form of statutory laws, in the form of rules, will ultimately have to stop these atrocities that are committed by a certain people against a certain community of people. But what exactly happening? There is a larger nexus as well, and at the same time police officers do not actually follow number of these rules as well, and there is a lot of delay. We also know for the fact that there is a lot of pendency of cases in the judiciary as well. When it comes to the trial court cases, there are more than 4 crore cases. When it comes to the high court cases, there are more than crore cases. When it comes to Supreme Court cases, there are about 70,000 cases. All these cases clearly point out that we have the law, we have the constitutional which bars certain practices, we also have statutory laws as well. Despite these laws and practices and rules that have been existing in the society, there will be continuation of these violations, primarily because these are mostly on the paper, but when it comes to the implementation, it is not happening at the upright level. So the laws are existing, but when it comes to the implementation, are they being followed? No, that's the major problem. Added to it, the economics also come into the picture. What is this economics? When you look at the historical section, you have a certain class of people, the so-called upper caste, then you have the so-called lower caste. What would they do? They wanted to retain the economics. For example, a particular class of people, a particular caste of people, they wanted to have dominance over a particular subject matter. So they used to teach only a certain section of the people or only their varna. The other section of the varna people were not taught, which basically means that the knowledge that was existing was only transferred from one caste to another caste, that is within the same caste, but this was not taught to a person outside the caste, which means that knowledge is existing only within a particular caste. So they wanted to retain this superiority, they wanted to retain this supremacy, they wanted to ensure that only a particular caste of people are educated, which ultimately means they had the control of the economy. The other section of the people in a particular caste were treated abysmally, they were treated very poorly, primarily because they wanted the superiority, they wanted to retain the knowledge, they wanted to abysmally treat another section of the people. So this particular idea of so-called caste has been present historically, and the same continues to be present even now, despite constitutional rights, civil rights and rules that are against these perpetual violence that have been perpetuated against a certain community. So what are we speaking about? We are speaking about the caste system. What are we speaking about? We are saying that there exists a particular Varna system where there is differentiation of superiority and inferiority, and this continues to perpetuate violence even in the present situation, and these are the major causes as to why there is this particular issue. What are the implications of it? So the minute there is this violence that is being perpetuated by a particular caste against a particular caste, what exactly happens? There is fear. Fear of what? That there is a community, there is a particular caste, there are a group of people. These people do not respect the rights of other section of people. So there are a group of people who are constantly in fear. Fear about living their lives. Fear about they would not be able to voice out their expression. Fear that there is a particular group of people who would want to submerge the rights of these people and even treat them subservient. So there is a constant mode of fear about survival, fear about what would the other caste people do to them. Such have been the heinous cases that have occurred when a certain caste of people skin the animal skin. They are belted. There have been instances where they are not able to take the water out of well because the upper caste have been using it. So that is why there is fear once again. You might also know that there is handlebar mustache. You are kind of twinkle your mush, right? So in a few pockets in certain parts of India, these are only meant for the so-called upper caste. So if a person from the lower caste happen to live the handlebar mush, they have been even caned and belted as well. So what are they perpetuating? They are perpetuating fear, and when they are perpetuating the fear, this ultimately leads to violation of the human rights. All of us, whether we are of a particular race, we are of a particular religion, we are of a particular caste, irrespective of the gender, whosoever who is born as a human in this earth, on this earth, have some basic rights that we are all entitled to. That human rights is also getting violated. This leads to fragmentation in the society. Fragmentation of what? That you are a person from a particular caste, I am a person from a different caste, so we will not have bonhomie, we will not have any understanding. So there is animosity and brewing of enmity within that particular caste, leading to law and order violation in the country. So the society is becoming far more vitiating. There is a toxic environment that is created, leading to further fragmentation of the society. The humanity as a perspective is not taken into picture, but then there is fragmentation. So there is caste. This caste takes superiority over humanity. So there is fear, leading to the violation of human rights, leading to the violation of fragmentation in the society, and ultimately the development of these section of the people who are supposed to have been empowered over a period of time does not get empowered. The developmental paradigm which has to be established is not taking place, and ultimately these section of the people of a particular caste, of the so-called low caste, is not taken into picture. So the developmental apparatus is not taken into picture, and ultimately all those people who've gone through this particular violence, who have not seen the development, they are not able to see social empowerment, they are not able to see economic transformation, are the ones who start losing the trust in the law. So we have the social contract theory. The social contract theory basically feels we as a society come together, we give up on few entitlements and ultimately seek the rights for the larger purpose of the society. For example, we know for the fact all of us would be able to do whatever we want to, but do we do whatever we want to? No. Why? Because there are these rules and regulations which are meant for the common goal of the people. So when the laws are present, when these laws are not implemented, these people start losing trust in laws. This could ultimately mean that they may stop respecting the laws, and as a result of all these issues that exist, we will also lose international reputation as well. Countries will start seeing that we are a myopic set of people who are not modern in our thinking. There is difference between modern and Western thinking. We as Indians, we should value our culture, we should respect the beauty, the ethos and diversity of our country, but we have to have modern thinking, not Western thinking. Let me give you an example. For example, let's say we have the turmeric, or let's say for example we have neem. The Ayurveda medicine is also one of the medicines that has been practiced from a very long period of time. So what do? When we speak about modernity, what we have to do is, there is Ayurveda medicine. All that we have to do is come out with certain stats and data to prove that this particular medicine works. But what do we constantly do? We constantly want a validation from the Western countries. This is not the right way to go. So modernity basically means that we have to respect the local culture, we have to get acclimatized to the local culture, use it, embrace it, and start even propagating it. But this should not be at the cost of violating the human rights. So modernity is not same as Westernity. And finally, because the international reputation is also at stake, the so-called KAS system is also practiced in United States of America. If you go through a couple of articles right now, there are these KAS system biases that are even taking place in United States of America. So what was restricted to India is now also being practiced in United States of America, ultimately breaking down the international reputation of our country. So what are the issues? These are the issues that exist with the caste system in picture. So what are the constitutional principles? When we look at the constitutional principles, one, we have Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, which speaks about equality. This is getting violated. The Article 15 of the Indian Constitution, which speaks about the state shall not discriminate only on the basis of race, religion, caste. So because the state is not differentiating, but there are few pockets of the people who are differentiating, that is violation of Article 15. To give you an example, let me throw you some of the movies which you have to watch to show you what are the kinds of perpetuities that are getting violated on the people. We have Article 15, which is another movie by the same name. So watch this movie to understand what is this violence that has been perpetuated. We also have a movie called as Jai Bhim. This is also available on your Amazon. Watch this movie to understand what is this caste violence, what is being perpetuated. So we have Article 14, we have Article 15 of the Indian Constitution, we have Article 16 of the Indian Constitution, we have Article 17 of the Indian Constitution. Article 17 of the Indian Constitution bars untouchability. In fact, recently when I was discussing the news analysis, I did say that there is one of the fundamental rights which is absolute in nature. I did ask you to put it on the comment section as well. So remember, Article 17 is not qualified. It is the only fundamental right which is absolute in nature. There are no reasonable restrictions whatsoever. Article 17 is absolute in nature. Apart from this, there are other safeguards that are provided to the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. For example, we also have Article 335 of the Indian Constitution as well. This speaks about providing protection to the SC/ST community. Then we also have Article 330 as well as 332. These are some of the important constitutional provisions. And there are a couple of other provisions in the directive principles of the state policy. Which are these is what you have to put on the comment section. So added to it, what is the way forward? The way forward is, yes, there is a hierarchical structure. Why this hierarchical structure exists is what we have to think logically, rationally, and that is what you have to apply. So when it comes to the customs, there are these practices. These practices will have to be followed. But when you step out of the house, when you step out of the four walls of the house, what matters is the Constitution of India. It is only the Constitution of India and the laws of the country which has to be brought into the law books. So basically, if a person is violating certain laws, he has to be immediately penalized, and at the same time, they should be able to meet the laws of the country. So the first important factor is we have to strengthen the laws. The laws are there, the implementation have to be strengthened. Second that we have to do is enhance the state institutions. For example, you have the police officers, you also have the National Commission for the Scheduled Caste, we also have the National Human Rights authorities and state human rights authorities. They have to implement these laws on a timely basis so that such rigorous practices does not happen, and there is less animosity and no animosity between the people. So the institutions will have to be strengthened, and at the same time there has to be an awareness about what? That a particular caste is superior, that a particular caste is inferior. No, this is not the way forward. So education will have to be molded in such a way that in the modern era what we have to see is annihilation of the caste as mandated by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So you have a certain cultural practices. Yes, these practices will have to be time and again reformed and reframed, and then it has to also practice as well. But when we come out of it, there has to be no caste, and ultimately sensitization that no caste is superior or inferior will also have to be molded. Then there is more empowerment that needs to be provided, and we need more dialogue and conciliation between all these caste groups. If we are able to do so, we would be able to establish egalitarian society, not on the basis of superiority or inferiority, but on the basis of humanity, on the basis of law, on the basis of constitutional paradigm and ethos. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about POCSO. What is POCSO? POCSO basically is one of the laws that was come up by the government of India back in the year 2012. These are nothing but there are certain specific areas which are called as sexual offences against the children. So these sexual offences under the children are to be treated separately. So how are we going to prevent it? To prevent these sexual assault against the minors, the state, that is the government, came up with the POCSO Act back in the year 2012. So basically the POCSO Act is nothing but Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, which was initiated back in the year 2012. This happens to be a special law. What is a special law? A special law basically will only look into that particular area. For example, we have the NDPS Act. The NDPS Act basically wants to prevent the commercialization of the drug trafficking, drug terrorism, so on and so forth. So NDPS happens to be a special law. UAPA happens to be a special law. Similarly, POCSO happens to be a special law which has a specific framework within it, and the idea is to prevent sexual assault against women, that is children who are less than 18 years of age. When we speak about these POCSO cases, remember it is a gender neutral law. What is this gender neutral law? When we speak about gender neutral law, let me give you an example. We have the Indian Penal Code. The Indian Penal Code has punishment under section 376 of the Indian Penal Code. What does it deal with? It deals with rape. So can a man be arrested for rape? Yes, he can be arrested for rape. But can a woman be arrested for rape? No. This means when it comes to rape laws, they are not gender neutral. That means only a man can be convicted for rape and it is not women. But when it comes to POCSO, which is a special law, it is a gender neutral law, which means to say any individual who is less than 18 years of age, it can be a boy or it can be a girl as well. If there is a sexual assault, sexual violence that is perpetuated on a boy or a girl by a woman or by a man, such a man or a woman can also be thrown behind bars, which means to say that a woman who is above 18 years of age, who is a major, if she continues to sexually abuse a boy who is less than 18 years of age, in that case, the woman can be thrown behind bars and she can be imprisoned as well. When it comes to rape, it is not a gender neutral law, which means to say only a man can perpetuate violence, that is, he can commit a rape against a woman. But in the POCSO, a woman who is above 18 years of age, if she continues to perpetuate sexual violence against a boy who is less than 18 years of age, this woman can be thrown behind bar. And we have ample number of cases where women have also been held culpable and they have also been imprisoned as well. So it means it is a gender neutral law. So a man can be punished for perpetuating violence against a child who is less than 18 years of age. It can be a boy or a girl, and at the same time a woman can also be thrown behind bars if this woman happens to commit sexual violence against a boy who is less than 18 years of age. The second important principle under POCSO happens to be no time limit for reporting the abuse. What do we understand by this? Let's say, for example, there is a crime. This crime has been perpetuated against a boy or a girl who is less than 18 years of age, let's say in the year 2015 or in the year 2016. But that child might not have known that a person is committing a sexual violence. If you are a keen reader of the Hindu newspaper, there was a recent article in one of the states in India where sexual rape, that is assault, was conducted on a woman, basically saying that this is a game. Such is the heinous nature that we are witnessing, and this was committed by her uncle as well as her son. I, as a practicing advocate before the Honorable High Court and handling couple of criminal cases as well, I have seen that you have brothers who have committed heinous offences in POCSO cases. You have uncles who have committed these POCSO cases in heinous offences. So as an advocate, all that I see is that we have a simple sloka, yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devataha, where women are respected, gods reside in that particular place. But then a woman who is supposed to be safeguarded by her brother, by her father, by her uncle, if it is the uncle and brother who are abusing the girl, where shall she seek the protection? Unfortunately, all this requires is sensitization, sex education, more morals and values and ethics that has to be infused into the people. So what happens in no time limit? Let's say there is a particular issue that has occurred in 2015, and if the boy or the girl does not know the consequences of it because they do not know that they are being engaged in a sexual violence, after years, once they become mature, they might know about it. In that case, they might also report this case, let's say in 2023 or 2024, whatsoever it is. So a case might have been committed years ago, but once they have the idea that this is a sexual violence, or back then they might not have the audacity, they might not have been bold to come up with this particular and say it to the society, but after years they might have grown financially independent, they would have an awareness, so they can come and complain about this incident even after years as well. And at the same time, maintaining confidentiality of the victim's identity is a feature of POCSO under section 23 of the POCSO Act, which means whosoever is the victim, the identity of the victim should not be revealed by the press, whether it is the print media or the visual media. In exceptional circumstances, only with the permission of the courts can they reveal the identity, or they should not at all reveal the identity. Then we also have the POCSO rules as well. What are these rules? There will be periodic police verification and background check of every employee of that institution. Let's say there is a childcare institution, or let's say there is an orphanage home. In that case, there are people who are working in that orphanage or in that particular area. So all these people's background check will have to be mandated periodically. Sensitize its employees on child safety and protection. Tell them what is the need of protecting the child. When a child goes through the sexual assault or the experiences against the consent of the child, she goes through a lot of trauma. I have seen a small child who is 4 years old raped by her brother. This means, will she ever trust another man for the rest of her life? She feels scared. She does not want to trust another man in her entire life. And this child who is 4 years old, whom I have seen in the court, is all lively, but she doesn't even trust men after that particular incident. She gets scared as well. So when you go through the corridors of these POCSO cases, it is damn scary. So they have a mental trauma. So sensitizing the people as well as whosoever has to be done on a periodic basis. Then there is zero tolerance to violence against children. These are the POCSO rules, and ultimately not reporting abuse is also an offense, which means you know for the fact that someone has plans to sexually abuse, or you know for the fact they have sexually abused, you should not be holding on to it. You should also reveal such an information to the police authorities and the relevant authorities so that this can be curbed at the bud. These are some of the prominent laws that we have when it comes to POCSO. So all that can be done, and a request has to be made, is that sensitization has to be taken into picture. Apart from this, we have something called as the Romeo and Juliet laws. What are these Romeo and Juliet laws? Let me explain. Though these are not laws, but then these are proposals made by Madras High Court and couple of other high courts as well. What exactly happens? Let's say, for example, there is a boy and a girl who is less than 18 years of age. These boys and girls might have engaged into a sexual relationship. According to law, what we have is a person can get married, a woman can get married only after 18 years of age, a man can get married only after 21 years of age. So if they enter into a romantic relationship less than 18 years of age, this is called a statutory rape. So a girl might have given permission, might have consented to engage in a sexual intimate relationship who is less than 18 years of age, but she does not have this right despite the law banning it, which means even if she is given the consent, this is not taken as consent and this is considered as statutory rape. In that case, there have been large number of convictions that have taken place where a girl has given the consent, the boy and girl have engaged in a physical intimate relationship, these two people are less than 18 years of age, but then the boy is convicted. So we have couple of judgments in Madras High Court which have said that what we have to come up with is called as the Romeo and Juliet laws, which basically means these are statutory rapes, which means there is consent given by the girl, but it is against the laws because she does not even have the power to give the consent. In that case, if a girl is less than 18 years of age, if the boy is less than 18 years of age, if consent has been given by the girl, these people should not be convicted because a consent and physical intimate relationship, discovery of the mind and the body is happening. In such case, an exception can be given, is the proposal made. So we have this particular instance where a girl and a boy have engaged in a physical intimate relationship who is less than 18 years of age. In that case, they should be given an exception or some of the proposals. This is yet not present in the law, but proposals made by couple of high courts in our country. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about the Kachatevu controversy. Remember, the Kachatevu controversy is an issue between the states of India and Sri Lanka. Where is it? It is located at this point. This happens to be an island, and this islet happens to be an issue between India and Sri Lanka. When exactly did this issue started off? Why is this issue continued to haunt both these countries? One, this particular issue started way back in the year 1974. And we had an agreement in 1974, and this agreement was signed between Prime Ministers of India. That is, during 1974, the then Prime Ministers of India and Sri Lanka, Indira Gandhi ji and Sirim R. Badranike, signed an agreement to demarcate the boundary between two countries in the historic waters from Park Strait to Adams Bridge. They signed a deal where they said that in 1974, you have the Indian as well as the Sri Lankan fishing community. The Indian and the Sri Lankan fishing community will be able to fish in this particular island in and around it. Indian fishermen would be able to come up to this particular island, and they would also be able to make sure that they wet their nets as well. They would be able to come up to this particular place and also rest in this particular island as well. So in 1974, we had this issue which was raked up, and this island was transferred to Sri Lanka. But 1974 also said that Indians fishermen would be able to fish in this particular locality. But in 1976, something else happened. There was a change in this particular agreement, and ultimately it said that without the express permission of Sri Lanka, they would not be able to do so, which basically means that the 1974 accord provided Indian fishermen to go fish in that particular area, but 1976 agreement removed this particular provision, and up until 2009, we were able to fish in that particular locality because Sri Lanka had its own turmoil as well. They were held up between the Sinhalese as well as the Sri Lankan Tamils who were fighting out. So Indian fishermen were able to go and fish in the waters of the Kachatevu. But after that, that is not happening. So Sri Lankan fishermen say that the Indian fishermen come up to this particular place. They also engage in bottom trawling. They use a large number of machines, and as a result, the Sri Lankan Navy are not allowing the Indian fishermen to fish in this particular area. There have been periodic arrests that have been taking place as well. And as a result, there is friction between India and Sri Lanka, especially from the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. So this Kachatevu issue is an issue between India and Sri Lanka. That is the main point. This happens to be uninhabited region, and this was signed in 1974. Subsequently in 1976, where this Kachatevu goes back to Sri Lanka. In 1974, we were allowed to fish. In 1976, we were not allowed to fish, and as a result, there is a friction between India and Sri Lankan fishermen. So that is why Tamil Nadu has raked up this issue, and Tamil Nadu government goes on to say that this particular island was part of India. It was under the Raja of Ramnath, who was present in Ramnathpuram, and all of a sudden, why was this given to Sri Lanka? So he goes on to say that it has to be taken back, and this particular issue is continuing to become a major conflict between India and Sri Lanka. As of now, this particular case is sub judice in Supreme Court of India. So we will wait and watch what the Supreme Court has to say about this particular issue. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about the pulses prices. Why are the pulses prices increasing? One is because there is deficient rainfall. When we look at the data, what we are seeing is a lot of deficient rainfall. Because of the deficient rainfall, there are not many people who are growing these crops, and as a result, what we are witnessing is inflation in the market. So one is the deficient rainfall. Added to it, the lands. When there is deficient rainfall, ideally we have to increase the lands which are producing the pulses. This is not happening in the present case, and as a result of all these issues, what we are witnessing is inflation in the market. So when we look into the data, major pulse prices sold across the country, we have the urd dal, we also have masoor dal, we have the moong dal. If you consider the prices for the year 2022 and juxtapose it with the year 2023, what we are witnessing is a massive shift, that is a massive change in the numbers. So this means there is increase in the prices of the pulses. In order to overcome, what are we doing? We are importing. Let's say for example, we recently had issues with tomato as well. We were able to import it from Nepal. Similarly, when it comes to increasing the prices of pulses that is happening in the current situation, what are we supposed to do? We can import it from couple of countries like Myanmar, so on and so forth, and at the same time also impose export limit as well. After a particular point, we should not be able to export, and we can also levy taxes as well. Now let's look into the next article. This article says criminal law bills renaming is needless meddling. This article here is not discussing about any of the issues that have been there when it comes to the recent suggestions by the central government of introducing the bills. So we have the central government which introduced 3 bills when it comes to IPC, criminal procedure, as well as the Evidence Act. All that the author is trying to say in this particular case is, okay, we are not looking at the merits of this particular bill, but whenever a bill has been made which is about the entire criminal justice system, which has a larger canvas for the entire country, why come up with names which are restricted to a particular language? We have the southern Indian states which have languages like Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, and we also have the Bengali language as well. They have their own respect for their own culture. So when we are coming up with laws for the entire country, such laws will have to be in English and not in a specific language, says the author. So basically, it is not just about coming up with the law, but it is also about coming up with the right name, and this right name should be in English, says the author, because there are many regions in India who have lot of love for their own languages. If a particular language is being promoted at the cost of another language, this could rake up issues, says the author. So basically, when we are coming up with laws for the country, it has to be in English, is what is this article all about. So this is it for today, and if you are liking these initiatives, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with your fellow aspirants. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.